Update. I'm tired of my ex-husband's wife wanting to be my friend just because he cheated on us both. Original post. I don't understand why I'm in this situation, and honestly, I'm frustrated because even my own family tells me I'm the bad one here. I just need to vent. I don't need advice or people saying, do this, you should tell her this, or I would write her this. Over 17 years ago, my ex-husband cheated on me with a woman I didn't know, but she knew who I was. He left me for her when our only daughter was a baby, and I just moved on with my life. I wasn't going to fight for a man who made immature decisions without thinking of the consequences. He married that woman and I focused on having a healthy co-parenting relationship for my daughter. He never showed any remorse, even telling me that our relationship was a mistake and that the other woman was the love of his life. That helped me see he's not someone I want or need in my life. Now he's cheated on her, and for some reason, this woman, who's always had a cold, distant relationship with me, is trying to talk to me every day. I found out about this infidelity through my daughter, who wasn't affected by it, so I didn't give it much thought. My only concern was whether he'd still be able to have our daughter over on the weekends like usual. But his wife has started sending me messages explaining what happened, even though I never asked her. In the past, I only reached out to her if he didn't answer a question about our daughter. It's obvious she needs someone to talk to, but even when I respond briefly, she keeps sending me long voice messages about it. I get that she's going through something, but why come to me? I don't want to be rude, but I really don't care about how she or he feels. In one of her messages, she said, "You know how I feel now." And yes, maybe I do, but that was 17 years ago. It's not the same. To be completely honest, she can't compare her situation to mine at all. I was a new mom when my husband told me he'd been cheating because I was boring in bed and didn't appreciate him. She, on the other hand, knew he was unfaithful when she married him, so it's not quite the same situation. I've tried ignoring her, but when I bring it up with my family or friends, almost all of them say things like, "Oh, but she must feel lonely. She wasn't to blame for being the other woman. You should be more empathetic." Or my favorite, "She needs someone to talk to." They're basically telling me it's my responsibility as a feminist to support her. I get that she's not to blame for him being a cheater, but as a full-grown adult, she chose to marry a man she knew had cheated with her while his wife was pregnant. So why should I now feel obligated to be her support system? When she had a choice to do the right thing, she didn't. So why is it suddenly my duty to be her friend? It doesn't make sense, and the women around me keep insisting I should feel empathy for her. She and he knew exactly what they were getting into, and I don't see why I need to be her free therapist. Being cheated on isn't my whole personality, and I don't want to talk about it with her 24/7. I'm just going to keep ignoring her because, frankly, I don't care how she feels, even if that makes me a bad feminist for not empathizing. Edit? No, I can't block her because she still lives with him, and I need to have her contact info in case of an emergency with my daughter. Honestly, it's strange how many people are commenting and messaging me about what I should say to her or even drafting messages for me. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to use words from strangers who don't know me, my feelings, or the full situation. It feels like people are projecting their own issues onto my post. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Personally, I just find your family really weird. Just from the title, the situation seemed so absurd that it made me laugh. You don't owe her anything. Tell her to find a therapist because you don't care. My mother was someone's lover, so she has the mentality of, you can't judge the lives of others. It wasn't her fault to fall in love. So that's kind of the way she and my siblings think. I'd be brutally honest with her, just like you were in the post. You're absolutely right. You can't compare your situation from 17 years ago to hers now. She knew exactly what she was getting into, and now she has to lie in the bed she made. You're not her therapist, and honestly, she shares the blame for sleeping with a married man, knowing his wife was carrying his child. As for your family, I don't even know how to describe it. Your mom justifying her own actions like that? Ew. At one point, I thought about being totally honest, but then I thought that would only bring unnecessary problems if they get back together because it seems like it. I just answer things like, "What a shame," or downcast face with sweat emoji. And she sends me audios of more than 2 minutes that I don't usually listen to because I don't care. Something very similar just happened to me. My abusive ex's new wife had a breakdown and left him, then showed up at my door wanting to hang out. We've always had a polite but distant relationship. Luckily, I was out of town and told her we could hang out when I got back. Truth is, I don't want to hang out with her, and I definitely don't want to rehash all the crap he put me through. I'm in no mood to be back in that space. Plus, there's the whole issue of her putting up with it for so long. She dealt with way more than I did, but my family seems to think that staying together through abuse is somehow an accomplishment. Anyway, I just humored her and kept flaking until she left me alone. That was years ago for me. I'm over it. I don't want to go back, and I don't want to hear about what she went through. I've already heard enough from my kids. My family had the same reaction. They used to say that in the end, my ex and his wife were really soulmates, just because they were together for 17 years. Now for the update 2 weeks later. Hi, it's been a while since I posted, and I just want to give a little update for those who are concerned. First of all, a bit of background. My mother had a long-term affair while I was a teenager and well into my adulthood. Their relationship lasted for years until he died, and I don't think his wife ever found out. That's why my mother tries to manipulate me into not judging my ex's wife, saying things like, no one chooses who they fall in love with. She sees herself in that woman, which is why she's always said that my ex-husband and his lover, now his wife, are soulmates, and that I shouldn't stand it away. I was very young at the time, and my mother was the only person I could turn to for a bit of support. Narcissists always prey on the vulnerable, and she took full advantage. Now, I have limited contact with her, though my daughter does spend time with my family. As for my friends, and opinions about the other woman vary. Many believe it's misogynistic to judge them because they're single women and it's the man who should be blamed, and we should show solidarity with other women. I usually agree with that perspective, but not in this case. I can feel empathy when the woman didn't know or was a minor being groomed. But here, I have no pity. She knew exactly what she was doing. Women can also choose to be mean and cruel. We're not weak, and my ex's wife is fully accountable for her choices. I know that explanation might be unnecessary, but some people didn't understand my family's or friends' behavior. And honestly, it feels good to vent. So a few days ago, I actually confronted my ex's wife. I'd had an incredibly stressful day, and seeing her messages pop up on WhatsApp pushed me over the edge. I sent her a voice message, telling her I'm not interested in her life or her suffering. I said I'm not her friend, nor do I want to be. She never apologized for her actions, and now she expects me to join her support group for women cheated on by my ex? I let her know that she walked into this with full knowledge of who he was. Knowing he'd already cheated on the mother of his child, she married him anyway, believing she'd be different. I'd love to post that audio here. It was 5 full minutes of catharsis, telling her exactly how I felt. She got upset and we ended up arguing, which was exhausting. I definitely don't want issues to disrupt 17 years of normal co-parenting. I forwarded one of her audios to my ex, after listening to all of them and realizing she hasn't once apologized. Not that I need her apology. She just complained, looking for someone to trash him with or act as her unpaid therapist. I told my ex to tell his wife to back off and find a real therapist. He apologized and said they're both working on their marriage, so she's still dealing with anger and insecurity, obviously. Since I went through the same thing, he said she thought we could share the pain. I told him I'm not her friend, and this affects our co-parenting, so he needs to make sure she respects my boundaries. He reluctantly agreed to talk to her, and for the past 3 days, I haven't received any messages from her, aside from one today letting me know my daughter was sleeping over there. So it seems like it worked. I don't care if they have a happy or miserable marriage, and I don't care if she's happy knowing he cheated but still stays with him. I just want to live in peace, free of drama from people who, at over 40, are still mentally stuck in high school. Karma said, hold my purse. Lol. They'll cheat with you, then on you. Mistress and your mom are so delusional, it's crazy. You should give your ex's wife your mom's number. That's the perfect shoulder for her to cry on, since they can bond as mistresses. Good for you setting boundaries and standing up for yourself. Next story. Am I the a-hole for asking my soon-to-be ex-husband why I'd take him back when the nanny does more for the family than he does? My husband and I are separated and getting a divorce. We have a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old. He owns his own business and told me he'd be home by 5:30 to 6 every night. I get home around 6 to 6:30, so I didn't think anything of him always being home before me. I had our 3-year-old in extended daycare and our 8-year-old in our school's after-school program thinking he was working. Halfway through last school year, I hired a nanny instead of using the extended care programs. After our oldest had issues with her program, about 2 weeks in, I got a call from the nanny saying my soon-to-be ex had locked them out and told her to take them to the park. The kids were hungry and she didn't have car seats. His house is walking distance from school and daycare, so she hadn't needed them. I called him and he said he'd gotten home early, wanted some space from the kids, and didn't want a random 18-year-old in the house. I had to leave work early to let them in. When I spoke with the nanny, she mentioned she was always home when she got there with the kids and that he was difficult, demanding that she and the kids stay in one of the kids' rooms, ignoring the kids if they try to talk to him, and getting upset if she left the room to grab his snack. That was the last straw for me. I filed for divorce by the end of the following week, and the kids and I moved out by the end of the next month. I ended up letting go of that nanny, and now we have Amina, 24. Amina is a Middle Eastern refugee with 3 kids of her own, ages 2, 4, and 7. Hiring Amina has been one of the best decisions I've ever made. I come home every day to a clean house, homework done, and some of the best Arabic food I've ever tasted. I have no idea how she manages it all, but her support allows me to enjoy my time with my kids, instead of scrambling to make dinner, clean up, and get my 8-year-old to do her homework. She handles grocery shopping, keeps track of school events, and even takes care of things like clothes and school supply shopping for the kids. My soon-to-be ex never did any of that. I once left him with the kids for a week while I went on a work trip, and they lived on McDonald's and pizza, which wrecked my 8-year-old's stomach. When I came back, the house was in the worst shape I'd ever seen. Our 2-year-old, at the time, ran out of clean clothes, and he bought her new ones instead of washing the dirty ones. Now he is asking about getting back together, saying it's better for the kids if we're together. I told him he's never truly thought about what's best for the kids. Even when he takes them for the weekend, all he does is bring them to Grandma's house. I asked him why I should go back to him when Amina does more for us than he ever did. He argued that he works to provide for us, as if that's different from me also working. Apparently close to double the hours he worked, and for similar pay. Now his family is calling me a bad mom, saying that if I cared about the kids, I'd want them to have 2 parents. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I personally would marry Amina. Having a neglectful, abusive parent is worse than a single parent. Ask any child psychologist. What you're describing is not laziness. It's straight-out abuse. You can lose your kids if CPS had been called in that last situation. You really need to think about the kids and not what society told us about what's good for the kids. 100%. If he doesn't live there, the kid grows up to believe he loved them, but unfortunately wasn't able to live there and be around to show it. If he's there and kicking them out the house and getting angry when they approach him, they're at risk for developing all sorts of insecurities. He doesn't seem mature enough to be trusted with your children's mental well-being. You do not have to give a reason to anyone for not wanting to reconcile. If they insist, then I found that I am happier, the kids are more stable, and our lives run more smoothly as things are right now. That's it. No one is owed an explanation for your decision, not even the soon-to-be ex. Ex just wants to get back together because I bet he hates paying child support and not being taken care of by OP. Screw him. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my estranged son nor meeting his child? I haven't slept in nearly 2 days, so please excuse any grammar mistakes. I'm from a country where bullying isn't taken seriously. I'm using fake names to protect my other 2 children, who I'll call Eve and Henry. I lost one of my daughters, Rose, 15 years ago due to relentless bullying by a group who never faced any consequences. One of the people responsible was Sarah, who is now married to my son, Mike. Apparently, they met in university, connected, and started a relationship. A former classmate sent a video of them on a date to Eve. When we confronted Mike, he broke down saying Sarah was sorry and gave a million excuses. He even said that Rose made her own decision and that we couldn't blame Sarah. He added that if we try to make him choose, he would choose Sarah. I told him he didn't need to choose because from that day on, I had 2 dead children and that he should never contact me again. His father and siblings did the same. The only family members who didn't cut him off were his aunt and cousin. Over the years, they tried to reach out with apologies, wedding invitations, and even pictures of their son. I thought Mike understood when he wasn't notified until 2 weeks after his father's funeral. But 2 days ago, he showed up at Henry's workplace to tell him that his wife, Sarah, has terminal cancer and that he needs me because he can't handle it all on his own. Mike then showed up at my house with his son, refusing to leave until I spoke to him. After about 4 hours, I opened the door and told him to leave. Mike tried to force me to meet his child, saying his son was innocent and that Sarah has repented for her role in Rose's bullying, urging me to forgive them. I told him that Sarah's cancer is karma, to which he responded by asking how I could be so cruel, not only to them but to their child. I told him I didn't care about his child or what happens to either of them, and to get off my property before I called Henry to have him removed. His aunt, my sister-in-law, called, saying I'm a selfish, cruel mother who can't let go of the past. She mentioned that Rose wouldn't have held anything against the child. I told her no one was stopping her from helping them, but she made excuses. One being that it wasn't her place, even though it wasn't her place to give Mike my address or Henry's. Am I the a-hole for not helping them? What a deeply painful experience this must have been for you. Losing a child, especially under those circumstances, is an unimaginable hurt. And when a close family member is connected to that loss, the betrayal you feel becomes even more overwhelming. The fact that Mike's life has moved on with Sarah, knowing the pain her actions contributed to, is a lot to take in. You made a choice to protect yourself and your other children from further hurt, especially after how Mike responded when confronted. So, it's understandable why you would hesitate to open the door to that part of your past again, especially without real accountability or meaningful actions to heal the past wounds. Mike may be asking for help, but it doesn't mean you have to forget the impact their choices had on you and your family. It's a deeply personal decision on whether to help Mike or meet his child. But remember, you are allowed to honor what feels safe and healthy for you. How do you feel about holding firm on that boundary? I know helping Mike will cost me losing contact with Eve. They were very close to Rose, and they witnessed some of the bullying. Am I the a-hole for not helping my sister to remove something that insults her? My sister cheated on her husband. Her husband is a restaurant owner. He has one of those quirky restaurants with funny food names. It's all one-liners. I'm not a fan of it because I find it embarrassing, but the food is good. Once the divorce went through, he added a menu item along the lines of Sarah's cheating chicken ass. My sister's name is something super generic, and I know like 19 Sarahs. A friend sent Sarah the menu and she was outraged. She came to me to ask me to help her take it down. I'm not a lawyer and don't plan to be, but I've taken corporate law courses and have friends that are lawyers. But I don't want to help her. In my personal opinion, she deserves this and I don't want to get involved. The only ones that would know who this is about already know the story. So there is not really a case for defamation. And there are too many Sarahs. The only thing we could do is send a cease and desist letter. But that's not legally binding and it's a hassle. I told my sister so and she got mad at me and told our parents, who say that what her ex is doing is worse than what she did. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. The fact that she claims this is worse than her cheating on her ex-husband tells me that she's going to present herself as the victim regardless of what you do. So you might as well stick to your guns. I'd go buy one of those meals and encourage the ex, not stay home. Also, does she not know about this Streisand effect? The more you try to censor something, the more known it becomes. This is a win-win for the poor ex-husband. Either he gets a laugh or he has to take it off the menu. But the entire town knows that his ex-wife Sarah cheated on him and got butthurt that he called her out. Even though he will definitely name something else the ex-wife lost at lasagna or the cheating ex-wife's Streisand salad. And when he takes it off the menu, it can be renamed to XYZ's cheating chicken ass. Not stay home. She made her bed, now she can lay her cheating chicken butt in it. Served on a bed of lettuce with a side wiener. Not the a-hole. She's welcome to consult a lawyer. You would be the a-hole if you started picking up the dish as takeout and serving it to her, but a funny a-hole. Lol, but no. I'm vegetarian and it's a fried chicken dish. Not the a-hole. Although even if I ate chicken, I'd never order chicken butt. And cheating chicken butt herself should remember that she will only become infamous should she attempt to publicize this. Absolutely. I would lay good odds that at least half the people reading the menu will think it's a reference to cheating on your diet, and another quarter or so of them will wonder if it's a reference to a song. Vanishingly few customers will think, oh yeah, the owner's ex-wife cheated on him, and he's immortalized her in a chicken dish. Unless, of course, she tries to sue him and the story goes viral. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for bringing my entire family to the restaurant where my girlfriend was working as a server in order to meet her? I, 24 male, have been dating my girlfriend, 26 female, for several months. She works as a server at a local popular restaurant. My family has been for a few weeks now asking to meet her. I have 2 older sisters, 31 and 27, as well as 3 nieces and mother and father who are both in their late 50s. My girlfriend doesn't have a good relationship with her parents and has expressed envy over me having a good relationship with mine. I've asked her a few times to come with me to meet my family, but she's always had an excuse why she couldn't. So anyway, last weekend I brought my whole family, my parents as well as my sisters and their husbands and their kids, to a restaurant. I requested a table in her section. When she saw us, I could tell that she was taken aback. But she did her job well, and even took the time to talk to us and get to know my parents, sisters, brothers-in-law, and nieces as well as she could, while still doing her job and taking care of her other customers. Upon leaving, my entire family expressed that they really liked her, that I was lucky, and that they were glad to have met her. They also left her a huge tip. I thought the whole thing was fine. However, after she got off her shift, my girlfriend texted me and said, "Thanks a lot, you jackass." I called her and she went off on me about how I shouldn't have blindsided her by bringing my whole family, and how she should have had a chance to meet my family on her terms. I responded that she didn't seem to want to meet my family whenever I brought it up, so that if it were to ever happen, this was the way it figured out. But she said that what I did was wrong, and that she had to give my family special attention at the expense of her other tables, which I think wasn't true. Maybe I shouldn't have sprung my whole family on her in the way I did, but it went well, and I am kind of annoyed that she can't see that. You're the a-hole. The update will be that she dumped you and that you're surprised. She's right. You've blindsided her with something that she's having difficulty coping with. Instead of easing her into another possible meeting scenario, offering only meeting one of your sisters at a time, for example, and respecting whatever decision she made, you show up with your whole family at her place of work. So not only you are ignoring her opinions, but you're also putting her on a tough time at work. Please update us that she broke up with you. Not only at work, but in a situation in which she literally has to serve them. You're the a-hole. And it's not even as if he turned up with just his parents or just one of his siblings, for example. He blindsided her with his parents, his siblings, their spouses, and their kids. The whole bloody shebang. You're the a-hole, OP. Big time. He's already the a-hole for just showing up with so many people and requesting a specific server section without a reservation. Adding into context that it was his girlfriend's section, and that he was bombarding her with his family she was meeting for the first time, really just catapults this even further into you're the a-hole territory. Beyond a-hole. Oh, you're the a-hole for sure. How uncomfortable for her. Regardless that her family liked her and left a huge tip. Yuck. I'd be so pissed at you if it was me. The fact that you don't see an issue is a huge issue. You should be very apologetic to her. Next story. Am I the a-hole for moving my 3 best friends into my new house when I have a boyfriend? For 6 years, I rented a shared house with my friends Jessica, Megan, and Becky. We each paid $880 a month for rent and utilities, and I'd been saving up for a down payment on my own house. I was in a relationship with Bruce, but he'd said he wasn't ready to live together, so when I wanted to become a homeowner, I figured I need to do it myself. We'd been seeing each other casually for a year and been in a committed relationship for a year for context. I found a house that needed a bit of work, but I'm handy, and the mortgage came to $680 a month, plus $350 a month for taxes and insurance. The utilities come out to about $300 a month if I was to heat and use the whole house. I asked my friends if they'd want to move into my house. We could all save some money. We could split the utilities and taxes and insurance 4 ways. And I'd ask for $75 each a month towards my mortgage, because I didn't think it was fair to ask them to pay much towards my mortgage when I'm the one building equity in my home. I wasn't wanting to profit off my friends like a landlord, so it'd be a good deal for me. I'd be paying $617 a month instead of $1,330 monthly cost. And my friends would be paying $237 a month for rent and utilities instead of $880, which was our old rent. And they could save up for their own house down payment that way. They said yes. They also all offered to help me with my DIY work and renovation I'll be doing, since I'm charging so little in rent, and since they want to learn how to do their own work for when they get houses too. So that's so helpful, having 3 extra pairs of hands around. This month, my friends and I made a big move, and around that time my boyfriend wanted to have a more serious financial talk. He wanted to know how long I'd be renting out the rooms in my house, and I said I wasn't sure. My friends are trying to save up to buy too, so I'd want to live with them for a while. He asked why they couldn't save up in their old house, and I said because that was $880 a month, not $237. He was incredulous I was only charging that much for rent and utilities. I decided he thought I was renting rooms out to pay down my mortgage. I could rent each room for $700 at least, and more that would cover my mortgage and make a profit. I was like, I'm not trying to make a profit off my friends, not even have them pay for my mortgage. He said he honestly didn't like that I was renting out rooms and still living in a shared house like a sorority girl, but was alright with it, thinking it was a smart financial decision. But now when I'm not even making a profit? He said I seemed immature, still wanting to live in a party house and not be thinking about our future. I said I thought he didn't want to move towards living together yet. I decided that he was thinking maybe not this year, but maybe next. I said that we could talk about him moving in time, and he shut that down, saying he wants an adult home and not a sorority house. He feels like I was thoughtless and not thinking about our future. Am I the a-hole for moving my friends into my house? Edit. A lot of people are suggesting I charge my friends more because of maintenance costs or me taking on all the risks. I was expecting to be the sole owner and fully responsible for the house's costs before buying, and budgeted for that case. Having friends stay with me and have my monthly costs is a bonus, but I'm not treating it like a landlord situation. I intended to buy myself a house and be fully responsible for my own house. Having friends stay with me, keep me company, and help me out with the DIY and the bills is an added bonus. So basically, I don't see it as a business where I'm trying to profit or make my friends responsible for my responsibilities as an owner. I just see it as me as a homeowner, and I happen to have some friends lodging. Not stay home. Allow me to translate. Why are you letting them live with you and charging them only $75 a month when you could be letting me live with you and charge only $74 a month? I'd recommend rethinking the relationship. Haha, the funny thing is, if he wanted to move in together without my friends there, he wouldn't be paying what one of them are. He'd be paying closer to what 3 of them are. Because I know he doesn't want to live in a house full of girls. His opinion on this is honestly irrelevant. He openly said he doesn't want to move in. It has no intentions of moving in for a stated amount of time. You and your friends are in a win-win situation, and that's the bottom line. You're not a-hole. If he keeps pushing or such, remember 3 good friends are more healthy than 1 questionable partner. Not a-hole at all. I do think your friends could pay you a bit more though, but I know you said you don't want that. I think maybe you should have an ex-boyfriend though. The other aspect is that the house could use some work. Repainting, upgrades, etc. And my friends all offered to help with the DIY work to contribute since I'm not asking a lot financially. They want to learn some DIY skills and how to use tools for when they get their own homes. And I'm getting free help with home renovations, which wouldn't come cheap if I had to hire guys. So I feel like it's something that we're all happy with and all benefiting from. The fact that he keeps referring to it as a sorority house tells me he thinks of you as a child trying to form a club with your friends, as opposed to an adult buying and fixing up a house with your friends living there in a mutually beneficial arrangement. He also seems to think the only way you can be an adult about it is by involving him in the house instead, but only when he feels like it. Pretty big red flag here. Yeah. I felt like it made at least some sense as a joke because my roommates are some of my sorority sisters from college, and we host parties for some of our other old friends from Greek life too. So it honestly does feel like a grown-up version of our sorority house at times. The four of us have lived together since college, first in a sorority house, then our first rental house, now my current house. We've actually joked that we are the Alpha Omega Epsilon granny house. But it's so condescending he calls it a sorority house in a non-joking way. Like it's a joke between my friends and I. But he was acting like we were actually acting like kids. I feel like he sees me as immature for still living with the same group of girls that I was in college. Like I'm still living the college girl lifestyle. And yeah, we like throwing parties and having girls' nights sometimes. But we all work full-time jobs, are being financially responsible, and definitely have grown up a lot since we met at 18. Last story. Am I the a-hole for letting my daughter disrespect my girlfriend and refusing to punish her after she called my girlfriend some names? Plus little update. I, 34 male, have a daughter, Haley, 18 female, with my ex, 34 female. Yes, I got the ages correct. For background, neither of our families were happy when they found out we were expecting, but her family got over it after Haley was born, but mine cut me out. The only one who stayed in touch with me was my sister. My daughter doesn't know why I'm not in touch with my family because I don't want her to feel responsible. So my ex and I have always told her that I cut them out because I didn't like them. I have Haley with me every other week, and ex and I split costs of everything regarding her. We are on speaking terms but don't hang out often, only on Haley's birthday and Thanksgiving every year. I haven't been seeing my girlfriend, 36 female, for over a year now. She's not a kids person, doesn't want them, but is on good terms with Haley. My daughter will be leaving for college in another month, so she wanted to go shopping for new clothes and things she will need to set up for her new apartment. She wanted both me and her mother to go with her, and girlfriend wasn't invited. I was happy to, but my girlfriend wasn't. She didn't speak to me, but directly went to Haley and said that Haley was being disrespectful to girlfriend by making me spend a day with my ex. Haley then told my girlfriend that it would be the last time I would have to spend time with my ex, until the next milestone like her wedding or having children, etc. But it only upset girlfriend even further. When Haley told me about this, I was upset, and told my girlfriend that if at any point she has a problem with what I do, she is to speak to me and not my kid. 3 days ago, when my daughter, girlfriend, and I were at my place, the topic of college came up. Haley asked me if I would ever consider going to college myself. I said no, and when she asked why, I told her that I felt a little old for it now, and I have a well-paying job, so it isn't necessary. When she asked if I would consider that if we're still 18, my girlfriend literally said, "Of course you would. You do realize that you being born is the reason his family cut him in the first place, right?" Haley got upset/angry and yelled at my girlfriend about how she could just not be happy that Haley has a stable life, and then called her some names. I was in too much shock to say anything, so I just asked my girlfriend to leave. I tried speaking to girlfriend the next day, but she said she wouldn't speak to me unless I punished my daughter to make her apologize to my girlfriend. I said no, I wouldn't make my daughter apologize. She hung up on me, and I have been getting texts from girlfriend's brothers calling me an a-hole for letting my daughter treat their sister like that. Haley has been avoiding me and her mom ever since. She leaves early, comes home late, and is eating out, and I can't help but blame my girlfriend for that. I know name-calling is bad, but I feel like girlfriend brought that on herself. Am I the a-hole here? Now for the top comments before reading the little update. Everyone sucks here except Haley and her mother. You're the a-hole because you haven't dumped your girlfriend. Why would you be with someone who is so disrespectful, insecure, rude, childish, and cruel to your daughter? You also didn't defend your daughter. I shouldn't have to tell you why your girlfriend is the a-hole. If I do, please see the paragraph above. The woman is jealous of his child, jealous of his ex, deliberately cruel to daughter, and he chooses to keep dating her? Some people's standards are so damn low. Not stay home. Your girlfriend's out of her freaking mind. Dump her immediately. You're the a-hole. She leaves early, comes home late, and is eating out, and I can't help but blame my girlfriend for that. Actually, you should blame yourself. You're the one who lied to your kid in the first place, and you're the one who started a relationship with a jealous, children-hating woman. After what she did, you should have known she would be petty enough to hurt your kid just because. I don't think you're going to see much of your kid from now on. P.S. Can't believe you haven't broken up with a girlfriend. Now for the little update. Dumped her. Just got off the phone. Thank you all. Am I the a-hole for lashing out at my mom after receiving a phone call from my crying sister and panicking? Background. My mom and dad had 2 kids. My sister Jane, 16 female, and I, 21 female, before they got divorced. My mom since remarried a few years after and had my half-little sister, Cassie, 7 female. I was originally under her custody, but left due to toxic behavior from her and stepdad. Jane followed suit just this year. Recently, she came into my dad's place and started arguing with Jane. I got woken up by the screaming and called the cops on her. She then turned to me and started yelling at me, which caused me to have a panic attack. Cops came and called for paramedics for me, and then my mom would start crying and apologizing to me. Since then, I've been prone to attacks like that and have been socially withdrawn, barely eating or sleeping. Jane also blocked her number and cut all contact with her. The story in question. I was just watching Netflix when I suddenly get a phone call from my mom's house. I found it weird since I didn't block her. When I picked up the phone, Cassie was on the line. Cassie, sis, can you come home? I miss you. Sniffs. Me, Cassie, what's wrong? Cassie starts crying on the phone, and I felt my chest starting to tighten up. Me, is mom there? Did she call me for you? Cassie, yes, please come home. Me, I'll be right there, okay? See you later. Hangs up. After that call, I got super dizzy. My heart was pounding out my chest. I felt like I couldn't breathe and my ears were just ringing. My mom was living relatively close by, 5 to 10 minute walk, and I even puked halfway. When I got to her house, she greeted me excitedly and Cassie ran to the door to hug me. I tried being joyful in front of her and tried playing with her and her dolls, but I just kept spacing out. I just felt so numb and sick. I confronted my mom when Cassie was taking a nap, and I couldn't help but snap at her. Me, what the hell was the call about? Mom, what do you mean? And do not use that tone on me. Me, you could have just texted me to come by and visit Cassie or called me yourself. But no, you had to have her crying on the phone for me to come over. Mom, then how else am I gonna get you to come? You wouldn't listen to me. I was seeing red. I felt like my mom just used Cassie to get me to come back, and I had a full-blown panic attack right then and there and blacked out. I woke up in the ER and my dad told me that my mom called the ambulance. Later on, my mom texted me that Cassie woke up and watched me get wheeled away. She then said that I was selfish and egotistical, and that call was not a big deal and I didn't need to get so worked up about it, and that I scared Cassie. When I got back home, I overheard my stepdad yelling at my dad on the phone about how I was an a-hole for lashing out at my mom and scaring his daughter like that. Some of my friends think I am the a-hole for talking to her that way, and others think I'm not due to the toxic track record. So, am I the a-hole? You're not the a-hole, but you'll be an A to yourself if you keep in contact with her. She's manipulative, narcissistic, and abusive. She's literally the reason you had to go to the hospital in an ambulance. Twice. Go to the hospital in an ambulance twice. Not the a-hole. They literally blamed you for her horrific actions, causing you to have to go to the hospital twice. Cut all contact with them. You can figure out how to save Cassie later on. I'm glad your dad is standing up for you. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. It's unfortunate for Cassie, but you need to go no contact for your own mental and physical health. She's shown she's not above using manipulation on a child to get you do her bidding, and this will not change. And the worst part? Little sister's also learning that if you manipulate people, her case fake and crying. Jeez, what a mess. Not the a-hole, but you should go no contact with mom, stepdad, and Cassie. Yes, Cassie is a child and doesn't deserve it. But your mom will continue to weaponize her against you. What's more important to you? Your mental health or Cassie? That's mostly what's kept me stuck. I usually have playdates with her and it's nice and all. It's just some days I would feel like I can't get out of bed, let alone talk or call, so that's why I feel like the a-hole. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my dad I don't owe him an explanation? My dad and I, 23 female, usually have a decent relationship. Not perfect, not bad either though. He and my mom divorced when I was 5, and for the first year custody was split, and then he had to move due to his job, which meant we went to every other weekend with more time during the summer or when he could get time off. Around 10, my mom started working a lot more and I would spend time at a friend's house. Then once I was 13, I started spending most of the time home alone. My dad by then was married again and had 2 of my half-siblings. He would ask if I wanted to spend more time there. He didn't know about me spending so much time alone because he knew his wife was not my favorite person, and he was hoping that a few hours here and there during the week would bring us closer. But I wasn't interested. My issues with her lay on how I felt she had no interest in listening to me and only cared about how it looked. Not that she didn't actually want a relationship with me. I know she did. The thing was, I had no interest in trying to bond with someone who didn't listen to me. It was stuff like she would call time with me a mommy and daughter date, and she would say me and my sister were the image of her, and stuff like that. It annoyed the crap out of me because I have a mom and she was not her. But when I told her I didn't like it, she would say that it wasn't hurting anybody. Anyway, I ended up struggling when I hit 16, and kept my dad out of the fact I felt so lonely. I told my mom a year later and she switched positions in her company and we went to therapy together. My dad found out about this because of some personal issues I have with a former friend of mine. She knew this stuff about me at the time, and because she was pissed that we were no longer friends, she told my dad how I had spent all those days after school in the house on my own because I didn't want to be with his wife, etc. And he was upset and pissed that I wouldn't tell him, so he could have pushed me harder to be at his house. He wanted to know why. I told him I didn't owe him any answers, that if he thought back to when I aired my issues with his wife, that he would know the answer, and I wasn't willing to go back through it all again. Because we did talk about it extensively when he wanted to know why I wasn't closer to his wife. He told me it wasn't fair, he's still my dad, etc. I told him I didn't want to fight him on it, and the way things were back then is how I preferred them, and I have no regrets. He's still pissed I won't talk to him through it all again though. He thinks I should be willing to sit down and discuss it with him, maybe with his wife, so they can figure out why I'd have chosen what I did over being with her. Am I the a-hole? You seem very angry, and you also seem to have a reason to be. Your dad also has a reason to be hurt. It appears like he was trying to have a relationship with you all along and you turned him down. If he had pushed you, that could have made you turn away from him even more for not respecting your boundaries. But it does seem like your stepmother didn't respect your boundaries, and he should have helped and protected you. I think you are both angry and upset. Both have reason to be hurt, and I hope that you can work something out for both your sakes. No a-holes here. I mean, I had a relationship with him, a pretty decent one. It's just he was never going to be there in those times he wanted me at the house after school. It would be his wife and kids. Had he been there, I might have chosen to go. Not a a-hole. What he wants, it sounds like, is for you to admit you were wrong so he can be right, and you will owe his wife a relationship. You don't. You're not wrong, and you already told him once, and he refused to listen. I mean, you said to her, essentially, "This bothers me because I have a mother I love and you are not her." And her response was that it's not hurting anyone. That matters. Meanwhile, you were standing right there. Of course you didn't want a relationship with her. Of course you didn't want someone you love trying to convince you to do so. Not wanting to rehash something like that until, if you're ready, is an acceptable boundary. Your therapist may have helpful suggestions on how to set that boundary firmly. Not a a-hole. Your stepmother made you uncomfortable by trying to force a relationship. You discussed it previously, at length, with your father, and he did nothing. It's been several years, so he can't do anything to change the past. Now that his image of the perfect family has been destroyed, he's throwing a tantrum. You are correct. You don't owe him anything. And you have the relationship you want with your family. You probably should have told your mom about being lonely earlier, but hindsight is 2020. I hope you feel better. At the time, I didn't want her to lose what she had worked so hard for. My mom was in a job she loved after years, and considering she was a black woman from a poor family growing up, didn't finish high school, I was so damn happy for her. So damn lonely too. But I really wanted to try not take from all the work she had put in. The only reason I told her is because it got so bad I knew I had to tell someone, and I knew my mom was my biggest support person. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my sister-in-law out after criticizing my parenting? My sister-in-law was in town, so she came with me to pick my 3-year-old up from daycare to surprise him. My husband usually does pickup since it's close to his work, but he stayed late to donate blood and volunteer with a company blood drive. We're in the why phase of toddlerhood, so there were of course questions. Some backstory. I have a lot of health issues stemming from a massive hemorrhage and resulting organ failure while delivering my son. It was extremely traumatic. I now advocate for maternal health care and I'm very open about my story. I also don't want it to be a secret for my son. If we normalize talking about it now in age-appropriate terms, I feel like there won't be an opportunity for him to feel guilty about the situation when he's grown. Back to daycare pickup. My son asks why daddy isn't doing pickup. I explain that he's donating blood and helping other people do the same. Cue the whys. Because daddy is giving blood to help people. Why? Because daddy feels like it's really important to give blood. Why? Because when the doctors took you out of my belly, mommy got sick. And other nice people gave mommy their blood because I needed it. And on and on. My sister-in-law was mortified and kept trying to change the subject. I obliged because a lot of people get up uncomfortable talking about blood, but my curious child kept bringing the subject back up. After my son was put to bed, my sister-in-law cornered me ranting and yelling about how inappropriate that conversation was, and how my son should be shielded from the reality of his birth. And it's horrible of me to put that on him, and he should never have known. And what does her brother think of his son being emotionally manipulated by me in this way? And I am an awful mother for putting that on him. I told her that my husband and I are in agreement about how to talk about that subject with my son, that because it's my trauma, my husband leaves it up to me to share or not share, but supports the open approach. And how we choose to parent is none of her business. She continued to blow up until my son woke up, at which point I asked her to leave my house and not contact us again unless it was to apologize. She packed her stuff and drove 2 hours to a friend's house, in the opposite direction from her home, 5 hours the other way. My husband is now getting blown up by family about what a witch I was and I was out of line, forcing her on the street and to drive in the middle of the night to her friend's house. My husband agrees that his sister was wrong, but thinks it could have been handled better, or I could have at least waited until morning to tell her to leave. Am I the a-hole for how I handled my sister-in-law? And am I an a-hole for how I'm handling the subject of my son's birth? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. I think your son was far more traumatized by his aunt acting like a lunatic rather than your calm, accurate answers. She yelled and screamed till he woke up and still wouldn't stop. She needed to go right then. I wouldn't allow her back, and I'd be just as honest with other people about how her behavior is damaging for your son and you won't allow it. You did everything right here. Poor kiddo must have been so scared to be woken up like that. Good job protecting him from the crazy lady, mama. Tell anyone who thinks otherwise they're welcome to have her over if they enjoy that kind of behavior. You're not blaming your child for anything. You're actually shielding him from feeling like the bad guy when he grows up. Oh crap, I did this to mommy. Is it gonna be a thing when he's old enough? Because you're like, yes, this happened. Yes, it was a byproduct of bringing you into this world. But I still don't care because I have you. That is the kind of thing a real parent does. Letting your kid know you don't hold that against them is huge and you're a good parent for it. Tell sister-in-law and the rest of the family to butt out. You owe them nothing, especially if that's how they treat your hospitality. Not a day-hole. Bingo. Our daughter was born less than 2 pounds and 8 weeks early due to a placenta/umbilicus issue and was delivered by emergency C-section. At no time did we lie to our daughter or conceal this from her. We always explained it factually at a level that was appropriate for her age at the time. It's just some stuff that happened. In general, don't lie to your child. They are way more resilient than we give them credit for. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my mom she is a bad parent for not punishing my sister? I, 14 female, suffer from depression and dissociation, so I take antidepressants. I leave the bottle sitting on my counter in my bathroom since that is my space. However, yesterday morning, I woke up and they were not there. I panicked since I need to take them in the morning and I had school. I ended up going to school without them and spent the entire day in a panic since I don't know where they could be. Later that night, while at home, I walked in on my sister filming a TikTok holding my medication bottle. I screamed at her for taking them and she started crying. I told my mom what she was doing, and it turns out my sister had been filming a video about her talking about her depression and how it affected her. I was disgusted since my sister did not have any mental issues we were aware of. But my mother told her not to do that, and that's it. I asked if she was going to do anything, but she said that my sister was a kid, so it was just a learning moment to tell her to stop. I called her an awful mother for letting that slide as if it were nothing and leaving me with extreme anxiety all day. She took away my phone for the night and told me to be respectful. I don't think I did anything wrong, since that is awful to do in both their parts. But my sister has been saying I'm overreacting, and my mom still does nothing and says I need to calm down since it caused no harm. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add, my sister is 12 and she is one of the reasons I have developed my depression due to sibling mistreatment. Sorry for not adding more info. Not the a-hole. Your sister is awful and your mother is an awful mother. It's telling what she saw worthy of punishment. Evidently, she values her own ego over your well-being. Well, you can punish your sister yourself. You've seen her TikTok account, right? Expose her. While Opie was not wrong, her sister should have been punished hands down. It's not ever going to go well for the kid when a teenager yells at their parents. Opie needs to follow up with her mom, or maybe talk to her dad about it later in a calm fashion. It may not make any difference, but she got punished because of a disrespectful attitude. Maybe a better conversation will help deal with this issue. I understand she's only 14 and her mom is totally out of line, but Opie is going to have to be her own advocate in a mature manner. It's not fair, but life usually isn't. Not the a-hole. You don't steal other people's medication, even for a joke. And definitely not to serve as a prop in a bloody TikTok video. Your mother is a serious a-hole for allowing your sister to get away with that crap. Not the a-hole. I'm going to be brutally honest here. Your sister is a prick for stealing your meds and using them as a prop for fake internet points. Your mom is either incredibly ignorant or apathetic by doing next to nothing to stop your sister, and then excusing it as a learning experience while punishing you for standing up for yourself. I hope things get better, Opie. And if you can find somewhere safe for you to store your meds, that would be best to prevent this from ever happening. Not the a-hole. Caused no harm? You were without your medication for a day. That can cause major side effects from some medication if you aren't careful. What if it had been for your heart? Would you say that then? And what if she took one? Taking meds not prescribed by your doctor can also be really dangerous. Your mom absolutely needs to punish your sister. Otherwise, she will think it's okay to do it again. Am I the a-hole for calling my sister-in-law cruel for excluding her brother, my husband, from her upcoming wedding? My husband, 32, grew up with one sibling, his sister, 28. Their parents separated, and because of that, they drifted apart because each one of them chose one parent to stay with. He had a rocky relationship with sister-in-law growing up as a result, but later got to work out their differences. My husband is a jokester. Sister-in-law complains about being on the receiving end of his pranks and jokes whenever they spent time together. She claimed that because of him, she lost her high school friends, her high school sweetheart, and lots of self-esteem because his pranks wore her down emotionally and mentally. Now they're in a better place, but old habits die hard, and my husband is still the jokester he was years ago. Sister-in-law got engaged 2 months ago and invited my husband and me. Unfortunately, my husband decided it was a good time to pull a prank on her during the party, and lied about her fiancé's brother having an accident that night. He was joking, of course, but things got out of hands and the party got cancelled. My sister-in-law yelled at my husband and hasn't been speaking to him ever since. Now her wedding is coming up, but she hasn't yet sent her brother an invite. Seeing him sad and depressed made me call her to ask what the deal was. She bluntly said she wasn't going to send him an invite to her wedding after he ruined her engagement party, but I thought that was excessive. First of all, it was a prank, a regular one that he pulls all the time, and she and everyone else reacted over the top. And besides, he already apologized multiple times, and in my opinion, that should be enough for him to be granted some grace and forgiveness. She said sorry, but she wasn't going to take a risk and invite him so he'd ruin her wedding. And besides that, her fiancé does not feel comfortable having him there, and she agreed with him. I was stunned and called her cruel, because this is her brother, and he never had malicious intentions towards her. Yet she keeps getting offended and oversensitive over everything he does, and at the end of the day, they're family. She asked that I respect her choice, but I said that is not okay seeing how sad her brother is because he doesn't want to miss her wedding. She ended the call after saying she owes no one nothing. I found that real harsh and cruel, and felt like she keeps punishing him over something that was in the past. My husband started crying when I told him about it, but there were actually some family members agreeing with her decision and telling me off for defending my husband's horrid attitude. Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. That's not something to joke about. I know the mental distress of a person who is the recipient of cruel jokes like that. Your husband is an a-hole for thinking that was a funny joke, and you're an a-hole for thinking your sister-in-law is cruel, essentially agreeing with your a-hole husband. You both sound toxic, and I don't blame sister-in-law for cutting you both out. You're the a-hole. Your husband's jokes aren't funny. They're cruel. I grew up with someone like that. When his first wife died, he sent balloons and a pony cart to her parents' house on her birthday so they could take little Joanne for a carriage ride. His own late wife. He thought it was hilarious. Her parents, not so much. Your husband's cut from the same cloth. No wonder she doesn't want him at the wedding. He's likely to stand up and object and claim she has 3 other husbands. You and your husband are raging a-holes. Totally, you're the a-hole. When people say the line of, oh, it's just a prank, you know deep down they are a-holes as they are trying to cover up being pricks to people by trying to calm down it's a joke bit. As much as you want to try and cover for him, he absolutely had malicious intent towards his sister for traumatizing her for many, many years. Come on, man, it's just a joke. F off with that garbage. I hate the it's a joke line. It's a second insult to suggest the person is on the receiving end of cruelty, to suggest they don't have a sense of humor. And it's always said by the bully. I'd lied about her fiancé's brother having an accident that night. Ha 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 ha. OMG, I can't stop laughing at that one. I'm gonna go tell everyone I know how funny this was. Oh, by the way, my actual brother died in an actual accident, so it's even more thigh-slappingly funny for me. Yeah, you're the a-hole, and you know it. And he's the biggest a-hole of all. That poor bride is probably terrified what will happen to her car, house, friends, or pets while he's banned from the wedding, and desperate to play another hilarious prank. I hope she's got security all around her wedding, home, and possessions. You're the a-hole. Your husband isn't a jokester, he's an infantile bully, and you know it. He has proven time and time again that he can't be trusted. He brought this on himself, and no one else is at fault but him. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my female 28's fiancé male 27 to drop his groomswoman? My fiancé Ben and I met at work. We worked for a tech company where I handled office management stuff, and he was part of the customer support team. His best friend James worked here too, and also a woman, Alex. Before Ben and I started dating, he and James and Alex became a friendship group. The 3 of them liked a lot of the same hobbies and stuff, and James and Alex encouraged Ben to get training and move from customer support to being a developer like them. When Ben's apartment flooded, he lived with Alex, and even after he moved out, he still hung out there a ton. When Ben and I started dating, I still wasn't bothered by the friendship too much, because it mostly revolved around activities that I wasn't specially interested in, and Alex always seemed supportive of us as a couple. She was also the only woman at the place that worked on the actual tech side of things and not in the office, so it made sense that guys were the only work friends she could have. She and I did try to get together more once Ben and I were a couple, But it kind of trailed off because we just didn't have a lot in common, and it felt like we were trying too hard. I never got the impression she didn't like me or was jealous or whatever, just kind of two different people. Anyway, Ben and I finally got engaged, and we were talking about our bridesmaid and groomsman choices. And he kind of threw me a curveball and said he wanted Alex as one of his groomswomen. I thought he was kidding and laughed, but he was dead serious and is including her in all of the bachelor party activities and things as well. It seemed a little odd to me, but I shrugged it off. But then I was in the kitchen the other day while Ben was in the other room at his computer chatting with James and gaming. James asked if Alex was going to be wearing a dress or a suit for the wedding, and Ben said a suit, to which James replied, "She'll be the hottest guy there." Then Ben replied with, "Probably the hottest girl too." Yes, Alex is attractive. She's really tall and stereotypically hot. They laughed, so I wasn't mad quite yet, just chalking it up to stupid banter. Then James said, "For a second there, I thought you two might start dating." And my fiancé came back with, "Yeah, I could never land a girl like that." I sat there in the kitchen totally gobsmacked. Like, how do you not feel like the runner-up? Later, when Ben was done gaming and we were sitting down to eat, I told him I was no longer comfortable with Alex being in the wedding, and he would have to drop her as part of his party. A huge fight ensued, and I told him what I overheard, and he said it was just talk, and he and Alex never dated or had a physical relationship, so I needed to get over it. I feel like I never want to see this person again, especially on my wedding day. But at the same time, I know she has been one of Ben's best friends since before he and I knew each other or were a couple. So am I overreacting? Edited to add, just to be clear, I don't have any problem with Alex as a person, and I'm not mad at her or blaming her. I just don't want a reminder of what Ben said standing up at the altar while I'm getting married. As far as the marriage itself, the situation is less than 48 hours old at this point, so even continuing with the wedding may not be what happens. Oh, honey, the problem here isn't the groomswoman, it's the groom. Best you figured that out now, and fix it if it can be fixed before diving into a lifetime with Ben. Exactly. Hope he deserves to be with someone who sees her as the most attractive person at her wedding. I hope he's not a consolation prize. Why is she still proceeding with the wedding? She seriously insists on marrying a guy who settled for her and thinks his best friend is the hottest chick? It's mind-blowing for me the pit in which this woman's self-esteem has fallen. You're the a-hole to yourself. Whether or not the wedding will proceed has yet to be determined. I genuinely hope you reconsider marrying this douche. You deserve a man who has eyes only for you. And yes, they exist. Yeah, I could never land a girl like that. I am so sorry that happened. Rethink your wedding because this accidentally let you find out where you stand in his eyes, all the while pretending it was just talk. The only reason they never dated or had a physical relationship is because she can do so much better, not for lack of him wanting to. And so can you. Not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my friend her boyfriend is not allowed at my wedding? Anyway, I'm supposed to be getting married early October 2022. It's not going to be a big wedding or anything, but me and my fiancé both have friends that we don't want to leave out. I have this friend, Amanda. We have known each other since high school and we aren't incredibly close by any means, but we are still somewhat good friends and hang out regularly, and I would like her to be there. The problem is, I just recently found out who she is dating now, and she wants to bring him as her plus one. My sister Lily and her ex Steve broke up about 10 months ago because she found out he was cheating. She was heartbroken, and I know along with that pain she still has a lot of resentment for him, and doesn't even like hearing his name. He was an awful boyfriend, so my family has no problem with him no longer being in our lives. Then 8 months ago, Amanda told me she had started talking to someone and she really liked him and everything. She wouldn't tell me who, not even his name, because she said she didn't want to share anything about him till it got more serious. I didn't really understand his secrecy, but didn't force her to tell me anything, and just let her know I was happy for her and hope it all worked out. Well, last week she told me she was dating Steve. They had gotten more serious, and she wanted to make their relationship public to the people they care about. She also said she knew how much I disliked him and what he had done to my sister, and hoped I would try to understand their love and be happy for her and try to see him in a different light. I was a little shocked at first, since I really didn't expect her to be with a guy like him, and she knew what kind of person and boyfriend he was. But it isn't my place, and I told her that I'm happy she's happy, and that was that. Well, 2 days later, we are texting about the wedding and everything, and she mentioned Steve being her +1. I do not want him there. Not only because I know my sister, who's my maid of honor, doesn't want him there, but also because I don't like him and neither does my fiancé. I immediately told her that Steve was not invited to the wedding. She was confused, and I explained to her that I was sorry and I'm happy for her, but I didn't want him there. At first, she thought it was just because my sister would be, and kept saying that they wouldn't even be near each other and it would be fine. But then I explained that with everything that happened, we didn't want him there. I said sorry again, but she kept saying how I don't want her to be happy, how I just want to live in the past, how I want to punish her for finding love, stuff like that. None of that is true, and I tried to tell her that, but she stopped responding. So now I'm left feeling like a complete a-hole, and I don't know if I should just let Steve come or not. Now for the top comments. Not an a-hole. She wants to bring the guy that cheated on your sister, a person that you are very close to and is in a wedding party, to your wedding? I think you're in the clear here. I can almost guarantee she didn't start talking to him 8 months ago either. 10,000% this. Hence the BS secrecy. I assume Steve was cheating with her when he was with your sister. But how the heck would they not be near each other in the same venue? Your wedding is not a platform for their crappy coming out. Uninvite her and don't think twice about it. Enjoy your beautiful drama-free wedding, guilt-free. If it ends your pseudo-friendship, so be it. She sounds a bit unhinged anyway. Your wedding is not a platform for their crappy coming out. This is the thing. Amanda and Steve are hoping to use the wedding as their way to reintegrate into the OP social circle and make OP's sister the bad guy for any lingering resentment. So tacky. Just uninvite Amanda kindly and directly. I am happy if you're happy. But you did choose a partner who has a bad history with my sister, who is very important to me. It's simply not possible for Steve to ever attend a wedding. I don't want him there. It's not up for debate. I think it's best if you don't come either. You're not the a-hole. P.S. You know Steve had Amanda on the line while he was with your sister, right? Even if she's not the other woman, she's the one he monkey branched to right after your sister dumped him. So he was, at least, laying the groundwork with chats, etc. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my fiancé money for his habit? Me 27 female and my fiancé 28 male have been going through some financial and marital struggles. I've been at my job for 2 years, and my income is a pretty good amount. Fiancé, let's call him Tyler, works a minimum wage fast food job. I've never brought up the income difference to him, mainly because it doesn't really matter who the breadwinner is and he loves his job. Recently, over the course of 4 months, he has been spending well above his means, including some of my paychecks and even savings. I have 2 car payments, insurances, bills, etc., which does help with the bills, but not the cars because I believe they are my vehicles, my responsibility. We live in a state where weed is legal, and that's where most of the money is going. I've tried keeping us afloat to no avail. I've begged him to cut down on how much he buys, and he always says he will, but never does. We've had multiple arguments regarding this. So far, we've had to move due to not being able to afford the rent due to said spending habits. So we decided mutually it would be beneficial to move back in with our parents as to save money. I finally put my foot down when we lost our home and told him I was separating finances at exits and that I would no longer be helping support his habit. He also recently lost his job due to his habit and not wanting to go to work, so he's no longer contributing. He's been begging me for money for his habit, and I told him no. He called me a selfish a-hole, went on about how I always brag about my pay, which I've never done due to wanting to stay humble. I didn't come from much, and I'm trying to build a better life than what I had, and said that he needed money for food, gas, etc. Now, I have no problem helping him with necessary things as such, but I know that whatever money I give him will go to his habit. I feel bad for not giving him anything, and I'm wondering if I'm the a-hole because what if he really does need it for said necessities? But I've given him money in the past for that and it went to his habit. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, except for how much of an a-hole you're being to yourself for planning to marry this guy. You can do so much better. Please respect yourself enough to leave. This. And also, OP, you should consider getting rid of one car and cutting bills. You said you were in good income but lost your home because of his minimum wage paycheck not contributing and dipping into savings. I'm assuming your rainy day fund went to a lot of weed? Lose the boyfriend, cut back, and go about your life. Not the a-hole for saying no. But if you stay with him and try to purchase another property and then lose it again whether it's splurging on weed or not as a cause, then I would have no sympathy for you at all. Not the a-hole. Coming from a fellow user, I can tell you that this isn't a habit. It's an addiction. When it gets to the point where you spend all your money on it, it's a clear issue. I know you love him and all, but it truly sounds like you guys have different priorities and want different things. You seem to have a good head on your shoulders and shouldn't be waiting around for some loser. Sorry. As a fellow smoker, you're 100% right. I actually stopped using for a while because it was a luxury I couldn't afford, and nothing helps my insomnia/pain better than ganja. But if it comes down to paying bills/buying food or getting it, it has got to take a backseat. This guy definitely has a problem if he's losing his job/home.